which you probably saw about a month ago. I feel my Get Ready With Me is very, like, week of, so they're kind of a little more relevant, but I pre-film a lot of other things anyway. In that video, I talked about how, well, I put these lashes on, and you'll see that if you watched it, but I also talked about how I'd started using retinol, and it really dried out my face. So my eyes are really, really dry right now, and for my own well-being, I just didn't feel like taking these off and gluing eyelashes on again. Like, it just kind of felt like it was gonna make it worse, and these kind of already hurt while I have them on. So I was like, I'll just leave them on, I'll film quick, and then I'll just take my makeup off and it'll be better. So yeah, it's just because I just didn't want to put any more glue on my eyes right now because they're so sore and dry. Like, I can just feel how tight my eye area is right now. And I really genuinely thought, you know, these will probably look okay. I thought this might be their last wear, which it will be, but just not in a glamorous kind of way. Anyway, we're gonna talk about my two Anastasia Beverley Hills regular eyeshadow palettes. So I have the Modern Renaissance and the Soft Glam. We're gonna start with Modern Renaissance, go through her, talk about her. I will say that these have been used and abused, so that's not going to be pretty, but I did think that making a video about them would be fun, as I do have a lot to say. And the packaging is so velvety. I'm sure everyone that has one of these palettes can say the same thing. It gets so dirty so fast, and it's not even intentional. It just kind of does. So that's something, like, if you're kind of a clean freak, I don't recommend. But yeah, we're gonna start with the Modern Renaissance. MODERNRenaissance by Anastasia Beverley Hills. We're gonna start with her. She is dirty and well used on the inside, okay? So I got this one first. And my favorite thing about the Modern Renaissance palette is nobody knows how to spell the word Renaissance. So when they were using it and, like, putting their makeup on Instagram, they would just call it the Modern Ren palette, because Renaissance is a word and a half. So this is what mine looks like. She's been used. The formula on these, I would definitely say, isn't beginner friendly. It can be quite a lot to handle, and there's a lot of kick up, there's a lot of pigmentation. So if you're just starting eyeshadow, I do not recommend these. There's been, like, controversies about it, but it's just the formula with all Anastasia shadows. So yeah, this has been used. I used to use these two colors on a daily basis, and Tempera used to be, so I used to do a cut crease every single day, and I would do, well, a half cut crease. I would do the half cut crease look because I just preferred that on my eyes, and I would set the new eyelid almost exclusively with Tempera. Tempera is actually in both of the palettes, and both of them look like this. Vermeer also, I used to put it on the inner corner a lot. So we're gonna start here and work our way across, kind of deal. So Tempera, I don't really know if I'll be able to swatch it well, but okay, never mind. It's basically just a creamy shadow. It has, like, the teeniest bit. I'm gonna take my elastic off. It has the teeniest bit of shimmer in it, but I don't really think it's gonna overly show up. But yeah, it's basically the same color as my skin tone, which is cool. Okay. Up next we have Golden Ochre, which is a very yellowy, pooey brown color. Looks like baby poo in my opinion. Oh my gosh, I just forgot how insane these are. So there's this one. I would use this a lot as, like, a transition shade back in the day. it's also a matte. I do not know if I can talk about this shade. Like, I can talk about it. It was a pretty stunning champagne shimmer, but I don't know if I can get any. Okay, no, I think I got it. A little. I kind of got some brown on my finger as well, but it was just a really pretty champagne. Yeah, I can barely swatch it, but I promise you it's stunning. That's why it's basically empty. Okay, and then up next we have this shade here. It's called Blonde Fresco. It's a cool tone shade, which is interesting. This is a mixture of warm and cool tones. I used it a fairish amount, but I never really loved it. I tried to love it, but yeah. So it's a matte. It's like a cool toned pink, honestly, and it's pretty, but it's just kind of not my cup of tea. But we'll swatch her. Like, it's just a little too cool toned for what I enjoy in an eyeshadow, but I did use it, you know, I did. As you can see, it has been used. And then we have Antique Bronze. I would say that this Antique Bronze shade is my least used shade out of this whole palette. Obviously. I just never really loved it. I don't know. It's a dark brown, but it has like the teeniest bit of shimmer. I think they really wanted to make it look like it was bronze. I don't know, I just never really loved it. So that's what it looks like. I don't know, I felt like it needed more shimmer. Also keep in mind this palette's like 3 years old. Maybe 4. I would repurchase. I just currently am not buying makeup. But yeah, I felt like it was just not shimmery enough to like be a shimmer. It's more of a satin, so I never really used it. And then up next we have Love Letter, which is probably my second least used shade in this palette. It's a pink, and I just really don't wear pink eyeshadow. But it's also a matte. It just doesn't feel, it feels grainy because I haven't used it in like ever. But there, it's like a purpley pink. I don't know, it's just really not. And it's falling out like crazy, typical of these shades. But yeah, it's just not in my color range. And then last in this row, we've got fallout everywhere. I want you guys to know I'm wearing cream colored trousers right now. Okay. Anyways, last in this row is Cyprus Umber, and it's a very dark brown, a warm dark brown. I loved this shade, but you just don't need a lot. It's a lot. Like, I barely dipped in, and that's what we're working with. So yeah, these aren't my best swatches, but the shadows are kind of old in my defense. But no, I really liked this shade. Yeah, I probably should have done the one without reds and pinks in it first, but we're here now. Okay, so moving on to the bottom. Oh my gosh. Okay, moving on to the bottom. This was more my jam. This row, I lived and breathed. So we're gonna start over here with Raw Sienna. Raw Sienna and Burnt Orange, I mixed together a lot. I used them interchangeably, kind of depending what I was going for. I would say Raw Sienna is the darker version of Golden Ochre. It's also a matte, and it's stunning. It's stunning. I loved this, and super creamy, super blendable. Just a really dope shadow in my opinion. And then Burnt Orange is just the orangier version of Raw Sienna and Golden Ochre. These 3 shades, and Cyprus Umber would be an amazing, like, matte quad. There's so much potential in my opinion. So there is Burnt Orange. Swatch it. See, they're just very similar, and the formula is the same. Like, no complaints. I used to use the living poo out of them. So yeah. Up next, then we have Primavera, which is the darker, more golden version of From Europe there. I used this often if I wanted to do, like, when I was using these palettes, was my half-cut crease days. If I wanted to do, like, 2 shades on the eyelid part, I would use this one, and then maybe this one or this one. I would rarely use it as for the whole eye, because that really wasn't the look I was going for. I really wanted to open my eyes up, but it is stunning. So I'll swatch it. Yeah, look at that. It's stunning. It's just, yeah. Oh, I forgot how nice this shadow is. There we go. It would look really good if you just put, like, burnt orange all over the lid and blended it out, and then put this on top. That would be cute. I don't believe I ever wore this palette like that, but I could definitely do it now. Okay, up next is Red Ochre, which I use it a lot. It's very pigmented as well. It's a matte, dark burgundy. It's a dark red. It's not like a dark red. I would say it's a light dark red, but it's a dark red. And it's just very, I want to describe it as scrumptious. So yeah, see, it's just, and it's got like that brown tone in it. I love a good brown toned red. There it is. It's stunning. I use this shade quite a lot. Next to Red Ochre, we have Venetian Red. I would say this was my 3rd least used shade in this palette. It's like very similar to this antique bronze business we've got going on. It's a red, but it's not a matte and it's not a shimmer. It's like that weird satin, and I just don't particularly love shadows that have like the smallest amount of sparkle in them. I don't understand them. I rarely use them because I don't know what to do with them. Like, I understand them, but I don't love them. I don't like them. Get them out of my face. But anyways, I way prefer Red Ochre. If Venetian Red and Love Letter weren't in this palette, I would be happy. Anyway, I have used it, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I'm sure you can't even really see like the shimmer, but it's like faintly there. And I don't know, just not my favorite red. My favorite red is actually from Anastasia, but it's in the Norvina Volume 3 palette. Okay, and second to last in this palette we have Warm Taupe. I actually surprisingly love this shade because it's exactly what it's called. It's a warm taupe. I've also used this shade in a pinch when I forgot my contour. I just used it to contour my nose, etc, etc. It's actually really nice, and it's come in handy for like Halloween looks, special effects. It's pretty good at like making it look hollow and really sunken in. It's also a matte, and yeah, I've actually, like, surprisingly, I really like this shade, and I think it's the uniqueness of it. I think I need a little more to really swatch it correctly. It's just a really unique shade, and I love that. I love being surprised by an eyeshadow or like a makeup product. I think that, like, there's a lot of things on the market. There's been a lot of things in the makeup game through history, and I enjoy it when something is fresh and new and exciting, and it's kind of like, wow, like, it's like the first I've seen that. Like, that's just fun, and that's definitely how I felt with Warm Taupe. I was like, hell yeah, like, this is cool. Okay, and the last shade is this beautiful orange called Real Gar. It's also this shade quite a lot as well. Yeah, she was a go-to as well. Look at that. Look at that. It's super stunning. I would say it's a wearable orange. Orangey brown, for sure. For me personally, I think there's like orange shadows, and then there's wearable orange shadows. This is a wearable orange shadow. All oranges are wearable to me. Like, I'll put them on my eye, no questions asked. But there's certain oranges that are more color than neutral. You know what I mean? And this is definitely a neutral palette, which is amazing. People love neutral palettes. So, anyways, that's the Modern Renaissance palette. Let's clean up the arm. And typically it's sort of stained, but that's fine. Okay, and now we're gonna move on to Soft Glam. So SOFTGLAM, Soft Glam. Now, this one's my favorite of the two. Probably if Soft Glam had come out first, I would have never even bought the Modern Renaissance one, because this palette is just my cup of tea. Like, it was so good. See, Tempera's used the same amount, that kind of thing. So, Cyprus Umber is also in this palette. I've used it the same amount. And so is Burnt Orange. So there's a couple repeats. I would say this palette is a little less, looks a little less used, but I promise I actually love this one more. So again, we're gonna start up here with Tempera. Maybe I'll try to swatch her and like get a more accurate representation. I don't know, it's just like my favorite light shadow. It's got that just a like slight shimmer. It's really pretty. Anyway, up next is Glistening, which again, this is so dirty, but these palettes are really hard to keep clean because the shadows kick up a lot. If you do not like kickback and fallout, these aren't for you, but it is messy, which is conflicting because the packaging gets dirty so easily. Anyways, Glistening is a gold, but it's a darker gold, but it kind of has like a pink in it. It's very interesting. It is a shimmer. Oh, I forgot how soft this shade is. Like, it feels like butter. So there it is on my finger, and I'll swatch it. Yeah, it's just kind of like a darky gold. I think Fairy maybe is the more pink one, but that's in the second row, so that's just Glistening. And then next to Glistening, we have Orange Soda. I love this shadow. Orange Soda is a matte, and I have wanted Orange Soda from ABH forever when it was just a single, because Samantha Ravindall was always using Orange Soda and I wanted it so badly, but I always felt like single shadows were just really expensive. And then I finally got it, and I was like slightly disappointed in it because it was not overly pigmented, but it's still like one of my favorite shadows to ever exist in the world. So it's just a matte light orange. If you want it, you really need to build it up. So there it is on my arm. It's stunning. It makes me want an orange float. So yeah. Up next is a shimmer shade called Rose Pink. My least favorite shadow in the palette, but it's a dark pink shimmer, which I don't hate it. Oh, I forgot how soft all the shimmers are in this palette. Anyway, I don't hate it. It's just I don't love myself in pinks, and yeah, it's kind of like I have worn it. It did fall out a little, we have this shade called Sultry, which it's stunning. I don't overly know how to describe it. It's Rose Pink's dark purple sister, I think. I've used this a few times, but when I was obsessed with this palette, this shade was just too dark for me at the time. So I don't really know if you can see it, but I'll swatch it and it'll make a little more sense. It's kind of like a brownie red purple moment. It's very pretty. I feel like I should do an eye look with it now, because I feel as if I kind of have a better idea of how to use it properly. I always thought it was super pretty, and it's actually like the one shade that finally made the decision for me to buy this palette, and then I barely used it, but I think it's stunning. Anyways, up next is Bronze, which is a shimmery bronze shade. I feel like this shade's maybe like the slightest bit gold. Like, I wish it was more that orangey, rusty color that bronze is, but it's still pretty. It's still really pretty, and I will say that the shimmers are way softer, way more soft in this palette than the Modern Renaissance one. So there it is swatched on my finger, and I'll put a bit right here. Like, it's pretty. It definitely is gonna give you that pop on the eye, but I just wish that if it's gonna be called bronze, it was more of a genuine bronze, if that makes sense. Okay, and last in this row, we have this beautiful matte shade called Mulberry. I was obsessed with this color, but I didn't really know how to use it at the time. I always wanted to, but I was scared. So I feel like I could also do something a little more with this shade now. But yeah, it also, it was kind of dry. Anyways, it's like this brownie red color. It's very dark. It's like, yeah, it's dark, but I think it's stunning. Honestly, I always used to kind of try to mix Mulberry and Sultry together and make a look, but it just never worked out the way I planned. Anyways, I'm gonna wet my makeup eraser a little more. This isn't setting spray. It's just a setting spray bottle filled with water, just to kind of get this off easier. Okay. I always have to like reposition my arm hair, it's annoying. Alright, and we're gonna move on to the final row. The first shade we have is called Dusty Rose. I would say it's the coolest shade, like a cool tone pink shade in the palette. Very reminiscent of Buon Fresco from the Modern Renaissance palette, but this is pinker, and that one's more grayish, if that makes sense. And this is also a matte, so kind of just looks like that. I tried to wear it as a blush once. I looked dead. It's pretty. It's a good, I don't know. It's just not in my shade range, honestly. So after Dusty Rose, we have this shade here called Fairy. Fairy and Glistening are very similar. One's just darker than the other. Glistening is darker and Fairy is lighter. So it's a shimmer, and it's super, super soft as well. And that's what it looks like on the finger, and then on the arm. It's definitely the lighter version, and it has like the teeniest bit of pink in it, I think, or my eyes are tricking me. I don't know, I could be blind. I am blind, but like I think I'm blinder than my optometrist thinks. Anyways, up next we have Burnt Orange. We've already seen her, but for the sake of consistency, we'll swatch her. So that's burnt orange. And then next to burnt orange, we have Sienna, which is a stunning brownie red. Also a matte. I really liked this shade. I used it a lot, honestly. Yeah, it's just really, really pretty. So we'll pop it down here. So there's that one. And then next to Sienna is this beautiful shade called Rustic. It's definitely a cooler brown. I really loved this shade. I reached for it a lot. There's a little bit of an indent, but I just never hit pan on it. I think it's because it was a little darker than it honestly appears, so I didn't need as much as you would think to make a look, if that makes sense. But it's just like that. It's really pretty. So it's like a cooler brown, but it's still on that warmer side of the spectrum, I believe, in my personal opinion. And then we have Cyprus Umber, which was also in the Modern Renaissance palette, but as you guys can see, used this as well a lot, and we'll swatch her for consistency. Kind of tell you the color story that's going on. And then the last shade in this palette is this black matte shade called Noir. I've used it. I have a lot of blacks eyeshadows, and I just kind of grab whichever one I know is closest. I have used this on occasion, but if you guys know anything about black eyeshadow, a little goes a long way. So yeah, we'll swatch it. It's very dark in my opinion. It's a really nice black. Like, look at that. It's insane. It's really nice. It's not gray. It's definitely not gray. It's definitely black. Yeah, so that's this palette. I again apologize that everything is so dirty, but that's just the reality of these palettes. These are the only two I've tried. I know that they've come out with a bunch of different ones. They came out with one with Alyssa Violet, Carly Bybel. They came out with one that was about sailing. I don't remember what it was called. They had the Prism palette. They've had a bunch of them that look like this. I think they maybe had like a Makeup by Mario one at one point, but I was never overly interested in the color schemes that they had going on, so I never purchased them. But if you like the colors, do grab them unless you aren't very confident in eyeshadow, but usually they come through. You kind of do need to like get a different technique sometimes with certain shades, but it's kind of a learning experience, so my suggestion is to try it when you don't have anywhere to be and then kind of go from there. But yeah,